Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Karen Funston. I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we get started, if you haven't done so already, would you please take a quick moment and make sure that your cell phones are off? Thank you. The voter forms that we're at, like the one this morning, are presented by the League of Women Voters of Bellingham and Whatcom County and the City of Bellingham. The city has provided the facilities, and the form is being telecast live by BTV Bellingham. Forms will be repeated on BTV Bellingham and can be viewed by Comcast subscribers on Channel 10 or High Definition Channel 321. CenturyLink video subscribers can view in both standard and high definition on their subscription. The city's live YouTube channel can be found at www.cob.org/BTVLive or on demand www.cob.org/BTVLive. This forum will also be broadcast on low-powered radio stations KMRE and KAVZ. Bellingham Herald is our media partner. We thank all of these partners for their generous support, and if you have the opportunity, we hope you will thank them as well. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 and is a nonpartisan organization with over 800 affiliates nationwide. The League encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not endorse candidates or political parties. Membership is open to men and women of all ages, and we invite you all to join us if you haven't done so already. Today is the third of 4 forums produced this fall by the League of Women Voters in Bellingham, Whatcom County. Today we're covering the contested races for the Port of Bellingham Districts 1 and 2 and the Bellingham City Council Ward and at-large position. This coming Monday night, we will hold our 4th and final forum in our series at the Mount Baker High School in Deming, beginning at 7 p.m. At that forum, we will cover the Whatcom County Council District 3 and the at-large position, and the Mount Baker School District District 4 race. These forums are the property of the League of Women Voters of Bellingham, Whatcom County, and Whatcom County and the City of Bellingham, and may only be used in whole or part by obtaining specific written permission from these parties. Now I would like to introduce you to our moderator, League member Tanya Baumgart.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, everyone. We are starting with the Port of Bellingham Commissioner District 1 race, and I would like to introduce the candidates, Michael Sheppard and Dan Robbins. Please join me in welcoming them. The Port Commission is a nonpartisan 3-person elected body, and 2 of the positions are on the ballot this year. The Commission oversees all of the Port of Bellingham operations and facilities. The Commission sets the general policies, which are implemented by the hired professional port director and their professional staff. 2 of the Commission's main duties are the adoption of the district's budget and the proposal of any port levies to be placed on the ballot. The Commission sets policies and approves all spending via the budget, whether for operations or capital items, or for public facility maintenance and improvements. Port commissioners serve 4 years, and their annual salary is $8,400. Port commissioners are not elected by district. All Whatcom County voters may cast a vote for the candidates in both of the races that are on the ballot. Before we begin, the rules of the forum are: candidates will have 1 minute each for an opening statement. They will then have 1 minute to respond to each question and will make a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate has 2 challenge cards. Candidates may use these cards to challenge or rebut their opponent's response. The challenging candidate will have 45 seconds to state the challenge, and his opponent will have 45 seconds to respond to the challenge. Each candidate may use their challenge card 2 times during the question and answer period. Candidates, simply wave your card if you wish to challenge the opponent on a particular question. Carol Como and Jill Bernstein are serving as our timers this morning. The timers will flash a yellow sign when 15 seconds remain and a red sign to signal time is up. A bell will be rung. That means stop talking now. We ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted. Due to the limited amount of time that we have and our desire to include as many questions as possible. Now, I have some directions to the audience. Fostering civil discussion is a passion and an important goal of the League. To that end, we ask that all of you in the audience be respectful and refrain from comments during the forum. Also, please hold your applause until the conclusion of the debate. We encourage members of the audience to provide written questions for the candidates. Questions should be addressed to both candidates. So don't just single one out with your question. Make sure that it goes to both, it can be answered by both. Ushers are available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners seated at the table on my right. Ushers, would you please stand or raise your hand and make yourselves, everybody identify the ushers. They will pick up your questions. Questions are going to be screened by League members Joe Collins, can you raise your hand, and Heather Brown. They are screening for legibility, clarity, and to avoid duplication. To start us off, the candidates rolled dice, and the high roller had the choice of going first with his opening statement or giving the last closing statement. We will rotate which candidate responds first to the questions during the question and answer part of the forum. So now, with the rules covered, let's get started. Timers, are you ready? Ready. Excellent. The winner of the dice roll was candidate Robbins, and his choice was to do the last closing statement. So that means, candidate Sheppard, we will start with you. You have 1 minute for your opening statement, please.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you for such a professionally run forum. I really appreciate it. My name is Michael Sheppard, and I'm a first-time candidate for public office here in Whatcom County. I've got to give a shout-out to my wife, who is at home with our 2-year-old and 5-year-old, just turned 5 this week. Every time I'm here at an event, she is usually home with the kids. So I really appreciate the effort and contribution she's made to me being able to run for office. I am really excited about the campaign we've run this year. We have more endorsements from organizations than any other candidate running for public office in Whatcom County. Not only current commissioners like Mike McCauley, but organizations from the Lummi Nation to commercial fishermen and unions that represent literally thousands of working people here in Whatcom County. We've also been endorsed by organizations that share your values, like NARAL, Planned Parenthood, the Riveters Collective, and more. I have a vision for positive change here in Whatcom County, and I thank you for your vote.
Candidate Robbins, your opening statement, please. 1 minute.
Well, good morning, and thank you, League of Women Voters, for holding this forum. I'm Dan Robbins. I've lived in this community my entire life. I've owned 7 successful businesses, and I'm proud to have served as your Port Commissioner for the past 4 years. I'm very dedicated to the job. I have a good relationship with our senators and representatives. I voted for the largest environmental cleanup in the history of the Port of Bellingham, while at the same time creating over 500 new jobs that include iTech, the Holiday Inn at the airport, All-American Marine, and Fairhaven Shipyard. We started construction on our waterfront after it had sat idle for 12 years. We got the shipping terminal working again. I saved the port $1.2 million in a new employee health care plan. I look forward to your questions and concerns in this important nonpartisan Port Commission office. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Robbins. And now there will be a 1-minute response time for all of the questions. The first question is, in your view, where does the future lie for economic development in Whatcom County? Please be specific about the business and industries that are or would be of greatest benefit to our area. Candidate Robbins, we'll start with you.
Well, I think economic development in our community is very good right now. In fact, we have a lot of jobs that are open. We need pilots at our airport. All American Marine is looking for welders. They're also looking for electricians and carpenters. So we are really, I think it's very robust right now, and it's time for the Port of Bellingham to salt away some money in case there's a rainy day coming up, which there always seems to be in any government agency.
Thank you. Candidate Sheppard?
Yeah. I think we actually need to do a lot more for economic development. And to me, economic development is one of these terms people love to throw around, and it doesn't always have a lot of teeth in what it means. To me, that means family wage job creation. I've lived in Whatcom County for 20 years, and I know that it's a wonderful place to live, but it's becoming a really increasingly hard place to afford. We see it every day with the cost of living being out of sync with wages in our community. My strategic directions for economic development in our community include 4 areas: value-added agriculture, outdoor recreation, high-tech, and marine trades. Those are the areas I would like the port to focus its resources to develop both an economy that we can all benefit from and believe in. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next question. What is your plan for job creation? When will I see more money in my wallet? Has your plan worked elsewhere? And Candidate Sheppard, we're going to start with you on that one.
Great. You know, it's one of the Achilles heels of Whatcom County. When I went to Western, most all of the people I went to school with weren't able to stay in our community. There just wasn't the job base. Western currently graduates 158 computer science students each year with master's and undergrad degrees. On average, 3 of them stay in our community. These are some metrics that we can turn around. And we saw that Whatcom County got worst on the Seattle PI's list this year for wage decreases. Average wages, which are already low compared to statewide, went down by an average of $3,000 in Whatcom County in 2016. These are things that we can work to turn around and change. And certainly we've seen the cost of living to the point where many people like myself probably couldn't afford to buy the homes we live in today. Rent has gone up substantially, and wages have just not kept pace.
Thank you. Candidate Robbins, please.
I think the first thing you need to do is make sure you get an education in a field that's needed out there. When your plane has been canceled out at the airport because there's a lack of pilots and there's no one to fly that plane, it means something's wrong. We don't have enough pilots at our airport. I don't know if any of you have had those planes canceled. It's frustrating. Economic development is one of the main goals of the port. We have just hired a new director of economic development, and we're going to go after for our new waterfront development area, jobs in high tech, cybersecurity, any of the latest tech jobs that we can find. But we have someone right now. The All-American Marine is building a battery-operated ferry. If you will, it's the Tesla of ferry boats. Leading-edge technology right here in our wonderful community.
Thank you. Next question. Do you think it is important to expand the Port Commission to 5 members? If so, will you actively seek to expand that number to 5 members? And we'll start with you, Candidate Robbins.
If I had to make the vote today, I would expand it, but there's pluses and minuses to both of them. One, with only 3 commissioners, I can never sit and talk with my other commissioner outside a public venue. On the other hand, if you have 5 commissioners, I can meet with 1 commissioner talk him into what I want, and then the two of us go work on one other commissioner, and it's all done behind closed doors. So there's value in both. I could go either way. If I had to make a decision today, I would go 4 or 5, but it's barely above staying at 3.
Thank you. Candidate Sheppard, please.
You know, one of the major hallmarks of my campaign for running has been going out and meeting people where they live. And we've to date doorbelled since August about 18,000 doors throughout all of Whatcom County. We've been to Point Roberts, we've been to Kendall, we've been everywhere. And one of the #1 questions I get is, what is the Port of Bellingham? What does the Port Commission do? And so there is this need for greater transparency, greater outreach, greater accountability between the constituents of Whatcom County and the Port. Will 5 commissioners do that and solve that problem? I'm not sure, but I do think there is value in it. The voters of Whatcom County voted this down just very narrowly 2 years ago. I would like to see us revisit this topic for some of the same reasons that Dan brought up, and I think it could be a benefit for our community.
Woo, we've got a challenge card. So, Candidate Robbins, you have 45 seconds to make your challenge statement, and then we will follow that with a 45-second response.
Sure. Understand it's very expensive, and it's not so much the salary. You heard in the opening statement the salary is only $8,000 a year. That's not the expense. The expense is running an election. $75,000 for an election, and when you have 2 more commissioners, you have that added expense. So, and there's health care and other issues that come up with it. So you have to understand that going to 5, there is a lot higher cost as well.
Thank you. Your 45-second response.
Sure, and you know, I think the Port of Bellingham, we already stagger our election cycle, so we never have all commissioners up for election, and so I don't see why we can't continue to stagger the election cycle in the same way we do, incurring roughly the same costs. The bulk of the costs are for participating in an election, not for every seat that is being on the ballot. And so we are doing there's no election for District 3 this year. There will be one in 2 years. So I think we can continue to see very similar costs, though there are going to be some additional for the marginal salary and some of the benefits that come with it.
Thank you. All right. So going on to the next question. Recently, there have been fewer passengers using Bellingham International Airport, and revenues have declined. Payne Field in Everett is opening to commercial air traffic. In your view, what should the port's response be to these developments? And we will start with you, Candidate Sheppard.
Great. So the nice thing about Bellingham International Airport is it's a wonderful facility. We've built a beautiful airport. It's small. It's easy to use. I'm sure you share my enjoyment of having that asset to our community. We built it out at a time when we were seeing the highest number of Canadian emplanements and overall emplanements that we were experiencing in our history. We probably built out the airport too big, too fast. We aren't really using 2 baggage carousels, and we probably could have done a staged build some of the shell and left some of the furnishings to occur when we were ready and needed them. The airport has been losing money, but I think I'm hopeful that we can continue to make up that difference with the Canadian dollar rebounding and aggressive push for more direct flights in and out of our airport.
Thank you. Candidate Robbins, please.
Yes, the biggest problem at that airport is that Canadian dollar. But there's things we can do to help mitigate that, and we've done them. If you go out there and park your car now, you'll find there's not as many parking lots available. So we've cut costs where we can. Yes, we are losing money at that airport, but I don't think we're here to create jobs, and when we have a good airport, that helps with job creation. Lots of companies that come to this community will want to have a good airport. We built it at the time the economy was just skyrocketing and the Canadian dollar was there. But the FAA had a lot of direction on how big or how small we could build that airport at the time. There's no question it's a little bigger than needed right now, but I think it's poised just right for to help with future development in this community.
And we have a challenge flag thrown down. So Candidate Sheppard, 45 seconds.
Sure, and to follow up, I think one of the areas that I touched on for economic development strategic direction is outdoor recreation. And outdoor recreation is one of those things that we can really build up our tourist capacity in our community that will draw people and make use of that airport. When we have events and mountain biking competitions and people coming to make use of a beautiful kayak trail on our waterfront. These are things that drive use here, and other communities around the Northwest have seen benefits from. I don't see any reason that Bellingham can't be the outdoor recreational capital of the Pacific Northwest, not just for having great manufacturers of bikes and outdoor equipment here, but also a beautiful place to recreate.
Thank you. And Candidate Robbins?
I'm the only commissioner that's gone to what's called Jumpstart, and that's where we meet once a year with all the all the airlines in the nation. And we're trying real hard to get some east-west flights. Very important to get east-west flights in this community. We had one to Denver with Frontier, and it had a high capacity and was full all the time. The problem was the cost to land at Denver was increased, and Frontier decided not to go there anymore. It had nothing to do with the fact that the plane was full and we needed the flights. So we're really working hard to get those flights back.
Thank you. Redevelopment of the first 19 acres of the waterfront site is underway. Completion of a city park with the renovated granary at its entrance is scheduled for 2019. What do you think is the next step for the remaining 218 acres? And we will start with you, Candidate Robbins.
Well, the next step in the plan is to do some condominiums next to Waypoint Park, which is going to be right next to the granary. And then we'll go from there to some office buildings. But if we have the right commissioners in place, I'm hoping that we'll go back and revisit the conference center and the large $40 million hotel that Harcourt wanted as their second project. I voted for that. It went down on a 2-to-1 vote. The reason I wanted that, it would give the energy and synergy to Granary and Laurel where they meet out there and help prosper that whole waterfront development much faster. And so that's our next step in the waterfront district.
Thank you. Candidate Sheppard, please.
When I'm out doorbelling, the second question most common that I get is, what is happening at that waterfront? And can I still have a say? And I think people are seeing progress happen. They've seen some of the cleanup work occur, but they haven't always felt like that they are engaged or knowledgeable about the next steps. And that makes people nervous and uncomfortable. For me, one of my highest priorities with that site is to make sure that we install the public access that people have been looking for at the beginning. If we don't get that public access, that connectivity of a park that connects the lovely Boulevard Park Trail system through and to our downtown and out the other side to Squalicum Harbor and the future Bay to Baker Trail, that is an essential piece that if we don't get that locked in the beginning, it's going to be very challenging to make it happen in the future.
Thank you. Next, I'm sorry. I got lost in looking at the questions. All right, next question. The affordability of housing, both for buyers and renters, is a serious concern throughout the county. Many cite it as an impediment to economic growth. What should be the role of the Port Commission in meeting this challenge? Candidate Sheppard, please.
So housing is not something that's traditionally been in the purview of what the port does. But the port is responsible for countywide economic development. And there is one specific challenge that makes it more difficult for us to attract good employers here to our community. When an employer comes and asks to resettle their firm here, they're going to ask about housing. Right now, the cost of housing in Bellingham is so unaffordable that most of the unions that represent me, their workers do not live in the Bellingham city limits. So we need to be working on housing to make sure that we're able to both address the need we have in our community and attract employers from outside. I'm proud to serve on the board for Colston Community Land Trust, a nonprofit that works on affordable housing countywide. I bought my first home through them, and I think the port needs to take leadership along with our partners at the city and county to make sure we're addressing affordable housing needs here.
Thank you. Candidate Robbins, please.
We have regulated ourselves and politicized ourselves right out of affordable housing. In the name of water, we can't build homes in Whatcom County, which drives the existing home prices up. It really doesn't have anything to do with the Port of Bellingham, although the port in our new waterfront district is looking at having some student housing on our property. And there's going to be condominiums where people can live and work and walk to work in our wonderful downtown waterfront development. But the regulations are what drove the costs up. We live here in Wetter, Washington, and you don't have to look any farther than the end of your umbrella to see that we don't have a water problem here. We have a political problem.
Oh, I see another challenge flag.
And I think, you know, when we're looking at housing, we have to be focusing on density in our urban core. We all value the quality of life here, and the quality of life we have is because we have productive agriculture. We have farms that feed us. Currently, we buy something like 85% or more of our food from outside of Whatcom County that you and I eat today. If we want to make sure that we're having an economy that we can really enjoy and benefit from and a quality of life that we want, we've got to make sure that housing is concentrated in areas like downtown. We've already made big strides there, and we need to keep doing that and building out the buildable land that we have before we continue to sacrifice our agricultural land for it.
Thank you. Candidate Robbins?
Once again, the only way it affects the port would be the housing that we would have in our waterfront district. To be able to live and bike or walk to your work is a positive direction that we should be going in the future. And our waterfront district will offer those amenities.
Thank you. What would you, as a port commissioner, propose to sustain and enhance the economic contribution of our marine and farming industries to the overall county economy? Candidate Robbins, we'll start with you.
Well, first you have to vote to keep our marine trades in business. And there was a very contentious vote on putting a homeless shelter in our waterfront district. I voted for keeping it marine trades. I didn't vote, I felt, against the homeless. I voted for keeping the marine trades. As a port commissioner, that has to be a focus. Our marine trades industry is very important to Whatcom County and the livelihood of the folks living here. And so you have to make sure that you vote in favor of keeping marine trades and have it in the forefront. Otherwise, we'll have nothing but condominiums on our waterfront.
Candidate Sheppard, her response.
Yeah, I'm really proud to be the only candidate up here who's endorsed by the Whatcom County Fishermen's Association, and I believe in the contribution that our marine trades make to this community. And one thing I think we can do more of is in that need for apprenticeships and education. My background is in education. I've always focused on creating educational opportunities in our community, and one of the things that Skagit does really well is they have a marine trades certification program. It's a one-year program. It's got 100% job placement rates. After we went and visited that program at the Port of Anacortes, I talked to the Dean of Workforce Development at BTC. He said, fantastic program. We're already at the Technology Development Center. We could replicate that in a year. The other part that you asked is value about agriculture. Value-added agriculture has to be part of that mix, and that's something that the port can do to support both our dairy and berry producers here in Whatcom County.
Thank you. How do you propose the port vet and monitor its contractors and subcontractors for anti-discrimination, wage, and compliance matters in general? Candidate Sheppard, we'll start with you.
One of the things the Port of Bellingham has not had a traditional track record of success in is supporting organized labor. The Port does not have a great track record of paying prevailing wage, and we've got no history of doing things that other ports around the state are doing around project labor or community labor agreements. Those are things that I value. When the Port is awarding contracts, I think there's value in making sure that those contracts are going to people who have health benefits, have representation, and are being paid the family wage jobs incomes that they need. I was proud to support workers when they went on strike at the Bornstein Seafood Plant, part of the UFCW 21 food and commercial workers. I was proud to go and support that predominantly Latino workforce and add my voice to their advocacy for a better contract. And it was a success story. They got the contract they were looking for and with the ability to retire with dignity.
Thank you, Candidate Robbins.
Well, I think it's important that we screen the folks who bid on jobs. We do that, but you certainly can't discriminate against them. You do want the bid process. That's how you, the citizens of Whatcom County, end up with the best price for the project that's in place. And I would much rather have every contract go to a local bidder. But that's discrimination, and you can't discriminate that way. You have to put it out for bid. You have to have them bid it. They have to do it properly, and that way there is no discrimination and should be no discrimination.
The next question, what is the Port doing well, and what would you like to see the Port improve upon? Candidate Robbins, we'll start with you.
Well, the Port can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have many different departments that are all very good. We work on, our key goals are to work on our waterfront development, but at the same time, we're working on cleaning up different phases of our port complex. We build marine trades jobs at the same time getting the airport going. We've got our shipping terminal and our log pond area in industrial sites working again, which is important. We're working on the job creation. We're taking care of our aged infrastructure. So we have many different facets of the port working at the same time. And I'm proud of what our employees have accomplished in the 4 years that I've been on the commission.
Yeah, I think the Port has some fantastic facilities. I know my family, one of our favorite parks to go to is Zwanich Park. Wonderful facility. The Port has beautiful properties throughout Whatcom County. And the Port also does really important work with cleaning up the industrial legacy of our past. One thing the Port could do much more is viewing environmental sustainability outside the lens of just cleanups. So for me, I've got vision for seeing the Port work on environmental sustainability projects such as salmon habitat restoration and working towards a goal of creating a net zero energy consumption policy at the Port where we are producing as much power as we use. It's an ambitious goal, but we make solar panels in Whatcom County. We can invest in biofuels production in Kendall and other projects that allow us to really take statewide leadership on a really important issue that affects all of us.
Thank you, and we have a challenge flag. Candidate Robbins, would you like to take your challenge statement, please?
Once again, it's very easy to say you want to create jobs and that you want to take care of the environment. But you have to look at the voting records of people that you elect office, and you have to look and see who voted for what. ITEC, who builds solar panels, one of the largest in the state of Washington, was a 2-to-1 vote. I voted in favor of that. Cleaning up our Whatcom Waterway, a $35 million project, that was a 2-to-1 vote. I voted for that. So when you're talking about cleaning up the environment, and bringing good environmentally conscious businesses here, take a look at the voting records of the candidates.
Candidate Sheppard.
And for me, I view environmental sustainability and job creation as really one and the same. When we're charting our strategic direction and we're choosing projects that support our environment, those are things that support the economy of our future and working people here in Whatcom County. It's something that we can all benefit from and believe in, and puts our values where our pocketbook is.
Thank you. I got just 1 minute, and should I push one more question in there? All right. Number 10. What changes or improvements would you suggest in the operations of the port or the commission? And candidate Sheppard, we'll start with you.
Changes or improvements? Well, I think the port can take a more proactive approach to economic development countywide. One of the things when I'm out in the county is I often hear that the port concentrates too much of its focus and its investment in the downtown core. Yes, we have some very strategic and important properties in the downtown core, but it leaves many other parts of our county feeling underserviced. Everybody in Whatcom County provides a small amount of tax revenue to the Port District, and the Port needs to make sure that we're fulfilling our mission for county-wide economic development with investments throughout our county. Not just Blaine, where we have a harbor, but thinking about Kendall and other parts of the community that haven't really benefited directly from port infrastructure in the past.
Thank you. And candidate Robbins, please.
I think the largest improvement the Port of Bellingham can make is to get the MOTCA money back where it was designated. The Model Toxic Control Act is the money that comes from the tax on the refinery to clean up Superfunds. That money has been siphoned off for other places in the government, and it's now in the red. We need that money to continue cleaning up the 12 sites that we have. I have a good relationship with our state senators and representatives to where we can work to get that money back. Where my opponent, according to the voters pamphlet, his political process has been that he had sued our state senator. I'm wondering how they're going to work together to get that MOTCA money. That's the most important thing today, is to get that money back where it's designed so we can continue with these environmental cleanups.
Thank you. And now we'll hear the last question prior to the closing statements. If elected, what would you hope to accomplish by the end of your 4-year term? And we will start with you, candidate Robbins.
Well, I went over the different areas. We set goals annually at the Port of Bellingham. So the goals that we set, I had my hands in setting them. And I want to go over those once again. I talked about them earlier. 1, to continue with the ongoing development of our waterfront district. Number 2, to continue with the environmental cleanups that are so vitally important. Number 3, to continue with our marine trades and continue moving that process forward. Number 4, to get our airport working again and get those east-west flights. Actually, it's working fine now. We just need more traffic. We need the redevelopment of our shipping terminal and our log pond to continue to grow. We got our first ship in there. We have our second one coming. We need to continue with job creation, and we need to also take care of all our infrastructure, our docks, our piers, any of those that are failing, and make sure that those are all upgraded to the standards necessary.
Okay. Candidate Sheppard, please.
Yes. I've tried to run on a platform that really focuses on a vision for the future. And for me, those include 3 kind of key areas. 1 is making sure that the port is focused on countywide job creation, family wage jobs, and effective economic development that creates an economy that we can all believe in and benefit from. Second is seeing progress on the waterfront, making sure that our community cultural values are reflected in that project, how it's developed, the public access that we need, and the working qualities that we are looking for as well. And third is making sure that we take a focus on environmental sustainability so that we are investing in our economy and the future of our environment and our children. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to start with our closing statements, and we will start with you, candidate Sheppard.
Well, it's been a real privilege to run for office here in Whatcom County. I knew this was going to be a lot of work, but I didn't really know how much I would enjoy it. And it's been, people keep asking me, gosh, the end's in sight. Aren't you exhausted? And I said, well, yeah, it's been a lot of work. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of doorbelling. But I really have gotten a lot from it. I enjoyed being in throughout our county and meeting people where they are. And I'm proud that we got 60% of the vote in the August primary. And we are going to continue working for success, doorbelling all the way in the rain and shine, all the way to Election Day. So I really thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you for such a nice forum that you've put on. And thank you all for being engaged in the public process here. Without this, we are going nowhere. And so this is really how we make sure that our values are reflected in our local government. Thank you again.
Thank you. Candidate Robbins, your closing statement.
The environment and the economy can and must coexist. To me, sustainability is when the environment and the economy are in balance. Let me wrap this up by saying I've never missed a Port Commission meeting. I've returned every phone call to every constituent. I've been endorsed by all 3 past Port Commissioners and all 6 mayors of the small cities in Whatcom County. With $400 million in assets and a $30 million budget, I would be your voice of experience and balance. I ask for your vote on November 7th so I can continue moving forward in this nonpartisan position as your dedicated Port Commissioner. Thank you for having this forum.
Please join me in thanking Michael Sheppard and Dan Robbins for participating today. I would now like to invite the candidates for District 2 to take their seats. While the candidates are taking their seats, I'd like to take a moment and encourage all of you in the audience to pass more questions forward. Go ahead. to send your questions forward via the ushers. Ushers?
I'm Barry.
The candidates that are running for the District 2 position on the Port Commission are Ken Bell and Barry Wanger. Please join me in welcoming them. The same ground rules apply for this race. I encourage members of the audience to provide written questions to the candidates. I guess I just did that. Please make sure that your questions are addressed to both candidates always. And if you have a question to submit or you need another index card, please raise your hand to get the usher's attention. We're going to start with the 1 minute, malfunction. Thank you, Jill. We will start with the 1 minute opening statements. Now, candidate Bell won the dice toss, and he chose to close last. So that means we are going to start the opening no? Did I get misinformation?
The closing statement last.
Yeah, that's what it meant.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right, we will start with candidate Wanger. Your 1 minute opening statement, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? My voice is a little scratchy because I've had a cold, just still hanging in there, so bear with me. Thank you so much to the League for having this forum. It's just an excellent way to get dialogue with the community, and I think it's really needed in these times of kind of stressful national politics that we actually have a good hometown meeting. I am born and raised in Seattle. I grew up on the docks playing down there, and I've worked on my family's here in Bellingham. I've been here 31 years. My kids and grandkids are up in Blaine and in Bellingham here. And I've really enjoyed working over the years with different ports and cities. That's what I did professionally for 43 years, 26 with the state. And that's what I want to bring to this event and to this city and the situation today. We're at a crossroads.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, your opening statement.
Thank everybody for coming, and if my voice is scratchy, it's because he gave me his cold. I'm running for this job for a simple reason. I want to bring a new energy to this discussion. I work in and around ports my entire career. Since I left my employer, Recomp, out on the Slater Road in 1995, I started my own company. And what I do is ship. We ship things to ports all over the world. I know the good ports and the bad ports. I understand them. I understand what hiring a stevedoring crew looks like. I know what it means to hire a forklift to come help me. That's the business I'm in. I'm also in the cleanup business where we do oil spill cleanups around the globe. We go to some of the most remote locations. I need to slow down. And we do cleanup on site so that we don't have to ship things to a landfill. That's what I do. The second thing I have a deep concern for is our people in general. And I think the one thing that we can do to not only help homelessness here in the community, but also help our community in general, is to give people work and good jobs.
Thank you.
Wait.
Now for our we've got a challenge on the opening statement. 45 seconds to make your challenge statement, and then you'll have 45 seconds to respond.
Yes, I've worked on actually cleanup brownfield sites all over the state and not just visited them. And I'd like to know if Mr. Bell has had any experience whatsoever actually working on a brownfield in a waterfront redevelopment site, as well as I would like to know how many cities and ports he's actually worked with designing and implementing and building, reconstructing the waterfront, not just visiting ports, but actually working on with the community to make those improvements occur.
Thank you. Your response, Candidate Bell?
Now we're getting feisty. Yeah, the answer is I have a very different job experience than Mr. Winger. I am a job creator, and I am somebody who actually has to go on site and do the activity and not regulate it. I have not spent my career as a regulator, just doing regulation and overseeing projects. I am a boots-on-the-ground guy. I have backhoes into contaminated sites, and when something goes wrong, I'm the one that people look to, guys like him. I get a fine from him if something goes wrong on my site, but I'm the guy in charge of that cleanup, and I'm the guy in charge of creating those jobs, unlike the regulator.
All right, thank you. And we're going to go on to our question time. And you'll have a 1-minute response time. And I have notes to tell you about the challenge, but I don't need to do that since you already are on it. All right, so the first question today is, in your view, where does the future lie for economic development in Whatcom County? Please be specific about the business and industries that are or would be of the greatest benefit to our area. And we will start with Candidate Bell.
Yeah, I will say that we've missed a bunch of very big opportunities in the last a few years, and one of them was the vote for the Hotel and Convention Center. The port voted 2-1 against bringing that in, and that would have kick-started that waterfront. And had I been in office, that would be started right now. And we'd have had some roads going in to get the granary building started. We missed opportunities to bring NOAA in. We missed opportunities to bring Foss Maritime in. We've missed those opportunities because we didn't have the right people in the office that knew what needed to be done to close those deals. We didn't rally the city around us. We didn't get the county around us. We didn't do those kind of things. Those are the kind of jobs that we need. We need those kind of employers here that will bring 200 and 300. I mean, I heard that we didn't have working wage jobs on the waterfront. Well, that's because we don't have jobs. You know, you can't criticize the fact that we don't have working wage jobs on the waterfront when we're not bringing anybody in and we're not bringing those jobs to our waterfront. I work in this industry. I talk the talk of the maritime industry, and I've gotten the bell.
Thank you. Candidate Barry? Candidate Wenger.
I think the future for economic development in this county is not looking backwards to things like coal export, which my opponent actually supported 4 years ago. That is not the industry we're looking for. We're looking at high-tech businesses bringing in high-speed fiber optic lines and getting small high-tech businesses starting down there to complement iTech, which is the biggest solar panel maker in the state, and building that downtown so they're actually supporting good living wage jobs and not low-cost retail.
Thank you. And we have a challenge card. Would you?
Yeah, so the thing I want to address right now is that I took a step back from my political party for a reason. And it's because I wanted the dialogue to get further through civil discussion. And it's pretty clear that my opponents, who are getting their advice from paid consultants, I happen to be getting my advice from a 19-year-old girl sitting up there who's my best barometer, was told to go on the attack a little bit today. I was not supported by coal money. I did not receive a dime. What I did was I got support from people who happened to be doing that. But when it comes to the coal issue, the attacks are coming from party politics. We have stepped back from partisan politics. I'm running as a nonpartisan, have not taken the endorsement from either party for a reason. And we've made enemies on both sides. We're not getting the resources from any party, and we're not getting the consultants from either party.
Thank you. Would you like to? Yes, candidate Wenger.
Well, my opponent can say what he wants, but the track record's pretty clear.
I'm sorry.
What?
You had the challenge.
You had the challenge.
Yeah.
I didn't mark it down. I apologize. No, you challenged. You
No.
made the
Oh, yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
He's responding.
Okay, are we
All right.
clear?
I apologize. Start over. Reboot.
Well, the record's quite clear if you want to look at it, where the money came from to help Ken Bell 4 years ago. And it was, big oil and coal businesses, coal in particular. And, that's not the future for our community. We've got to look forward to, the types of businesses where our kids are coming out of college here with a high-tech and training, and they can't even get a job. They all have to leave to go to Seattle, Portland, or Vancouver, BC. We're perfectly located to actually bring those jobs here, and that's where the emphasis has got to be in the future.
Thank you, candidate Wenger. Next question. As a commissioner, do you have any role in supporting the farming industry or local and regional farming industry? Candidate Wenger, we will start with you on that one.
Yes, I think, as Mr. Sheppard said, it's value added on farm commodities. One thing I think we could learn a lot from Skagit County's port. They've done a great job. And as you all know, we all love to drink beer up here. Craft beer is we're one of the biggest in the world. And down in Skagit Valley, they really took that to get their grains to be malted. And they now have a fabulous whole manufacturing and processing scheme down there that's helped with their farmers growing those types of products.
Candidate Bell?
I believe the future of farming is in exports, and I believe that the best way we can possibly help our farming community is through the export. I do wonder, though, why you think you support the farming community when the people at Ferndale Grain have come to me and said, you got to win, when the foundation that he sits on the board of funded a challenge to Ferndale Grain. Those employees don't feel very supported by my opponent when it came to their jobs and their job security and his support of agriculture. I'm a friend of the farmer, and I'm a friend of exporting grains, and I'm a friend of making sure that they get their commodities to bigger and better markets, as well as the fishermen. I think the best thing we can possibly do for the fishermen is put a fish market on the fish, and help them sell their commodities to more places.
Okay, and we have another challenge flag.
Of course we do.
Do we have some more of these somewhere?
This is correct. They each get 2, which makes 4 altogether. So, candidate Wenger, your challenge statement, please.
Yes, I don't know what board he's talking about. I'm not on a board that's suing anybody. As a matter of fact, I wasn't just a regulator. I also brought in millions of dollars in grants to every small city in this county, including the county, over the years. And those were to help plan and design and implement the local jurisdiction's vision of what they wanted for their towns on the waterfront in Ferndale, Sumas, Everson, Nooksack, Blaine, and Bellingham, as well as the county at large. And so, I've been a friend to the farmer actually through my entire career. I've gone and worked with them on the land to help them figure out what the best way to do buffers are and to help make sure their lands are drained properly so they can get their crops in the spring, excuse me.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, your response?
Yeah, I think it's a very different thing to talk about having given out grants and producing private sector jobs. I think the growth of our waterfront and the growth of our community is going to be based in the private sector. I believe the marketplace is going to speak. It's one thing to give out public money. It's another thing to go create something from nothing. My view of economic development is you take something that's at 0 and you move it to 100 to make something happen. That happens by bringing the right private sector people into this economy. That comes from a Foss Maritime. It does come from the fishermen. It does not come from a grant. It does not come from being accountable to that. And it does come to being accountable with public dollars, which I will be.
Thank you. Redevelopment of the first 19 acres of the waterfront site is underway. Completion of a city park with the renovated granary is at its entrance is scheduled for 2019. What do you think is the next step for the remaining 218 acres? And we will start with candidate Bell, please.
Yeah, I think this is a big deal. The first thing I would do is I would make sure we hired the right economic development director, and I would put him on a path or her on a path of making sure that we found the right jobs for this community. They would be narrowly focused on making sure that what we did created value. So when I say created value, I don't think bringing a Starbucks or bringing a hotel or bringing those kind of things are the kind of jobs. We've done that. That part of the plan is done. What needs to happen now are the value-added jobs where you actually have somebody like a company like mine. When I come in, I hire forklift operators upstream. When I come in, I hire stevedores. When I come in, I'm creating more work. There's probably 7 jobs behind me when I come in with an economic opportunity. Those are the kind of things that I would set an economic development director for the port on the task of finding. The kind that create value, that do manufacturing, that are value-added jobs on the rest of that, and they do bring a number of working wage jobs into this community.
Thank you. Candidate Wanger, please.
Well, first of all, that first 20 acres is not set in concrete, not yet. And it's really crucial because the plans for that have been all over the map, basically. They need to be sorted out, and what I can bring is actually sit down with the city and work with the port and the other stakeholders and the developer to actually pull that vision together so it actually reflects what the citizens wanted through the Waterfront Futures visioning projects. And so for the first 20 acres, it's really a critical time for the city to get that right, to get the public access in, to get the right kind of mix of uses, and to bring in the transportation and utilities to support that type of development. For the rest of the land down there, most of that's in light industrial use with the shipping pier and the areas right next to it. And so that's going to remain in a water-related type use.
Thank you. Oh my, you guys are just keeping me on my toes. All right, so this is our last challenge question. Candidate Bell, 45 seconds for your statement, please.
This is the reason I'm in this race. I ran out of patience with re-looking at this. That waterfront has been studied for the last 10 years. The development plan has been put in place. The last couple of meetings we've been at, Mr. Winger has shown a propensity to want to change it, to re-look at it, to take a look at 2 other different plans that might be overlaid on it. At some point, we got to do something, and we've got to get started on that waterfront. We've revisited it. We visited it to death. Right now, we've got a plan in place. Roosevelt once said, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The second best thing you can do is the wrong thing. The worst thing you can do is to do nothing. Every time we elect a new commission, we restudy it. This is another 18 months if we go down the road that he just proposed to go re-look at it, to redesign. Everybody in elected office is going to have a different take. It's time to start the plan we've got.
That was done. Candidate Wanger, your response, please.
Well, actually, it's, you get one shot at getting your waterfront right. I worked with Port Townsend on this for a number of years, and they turned their town around from facing the inland to facing the waterfront. That's what we need to have done here. Because once those view corridors are set, they're set for life. The public access, the parks. And if you want luxury condos down there, that's not going to help your housing market, but it is going to make it much more private. That stuff needs to be set back so the public has access to the waterfront, and that's what I'll get done.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, why do we still not have public access to our waterfront, and how do we get that? And Candidate Wanger, we'll start with you.
well, it's a nice lead-in from what I just said. Along the waterfront, the port's made a number of mistakes in past development. None of them are irreversible at this point in time, but the area around the log pond in particular got heavily rip-wrapped, where it actually was a really nice beach, and it's been planted with eelgrass, which has done really well in a cap at that area. So the log pond in particular, all the access along the waterfront should be improved right away so the people that are paying the taxes for this actually have a real waterfront again after 100 years of not having one. Once they're down there, they will understand and see how important it is for our community to have this regional asset back in their hands. So that's what I will work on. And there's other, I think, interior stripe of park through the middle of the site is actually a really good idea. Adds value to the properties on both sides of that, and it makes continuity from the granary all the way over to the Cornwall Beach area. I'd really like to see that move forward.
Candidate Bell, your response.
Yep. Has my clock started yet? Can you reset it? Yeah, this is my point as well. There are too many people involved in this process. We've been doing it for way too long. We'll get access when we start. The reason we don't have access down there is because nobody can make a decision. And every time we wait another 2 years, another elected official comes into office who wants to put their print on it. And then we wait another 4 years while somebody else wants to take another look at it. It's time to start. If we had put that hotel down there, we would have had a plan in place where we could have said to the city, here's where the hotel's going to go and the convention and the conference center is going to go. Let's start to put those roads in. And then this thing starts to take shape. And then we get some form. Until we start getting customers down there on that waterfront, we're going to be debating how things look, how things go, because it's a blank slate and everybody's got an opinion of what should go down there. But what we really need are customers down there. We need people who will actually site on our waterfront, build something on our waterfront so we can develop it around those jobs and around those structures. It will all take place. There is a park planned. We will have amazing access in because I care about Colshan Cycle and man pies.
Thank you. So let's shift gears a little bit. What role do you think the port should play in helping to resolve the problem of homelessness in the county? And Candidate Bell, we are going to start with you.
Yeah, this is my wheelhouse. 30 years ago, I was the founding board chairman of a private shelter in Denver, which is where I was raised. And we started a shelter there to be a think tank for homelessness. Our job was to try to figure out how to get the people who were sleeping on the streets of Denver off the streets. And we found that the biggest problems we've got are not only mental illness, but also drug addiction. The best thing we can possibly do is start to get those people who are mentally ill into proper treatment. We can get those people who are alcoholics into proper treatment. What we have honed in on in that facility is that the best thing for addiction is peer recovery. It's getting people into a peer recovery program and then get them a job. Get them to work so they get their self-esteem back. Give them something to get up for in the morning. Give them some structure around their life. So those issues need to be handled. There needs to be some kind of a triage center where we can actually take people in off the street, give them some place warm, give them a triage assessment so that we know if they're mentally ill, they can go to mental illness treatment centers, or if they're addicted, we can send them to addiction centers.
Thank you. Candidate Wenger, please.
Well, this is one area where we actually sort of agree on it, because I agree it's not one size fits all. It's an issue. It's not normally a port issue, but it is in this case because we're rebuilding our community down on the waterfront, and it affects everyone in the county. So I was not in favor of the proposal to displace the marine trades area with a large homeless shelter that does kind of everything all under the same roof. I think that would have made a big mistake for a lot of reasons. The location just wasn't right. It was a good intent. Those kinds of facilities need to be broken down into specific types of uses to treat people that are mentally challenged or on drugs versus people who are just out of work. They should be separate facilities. The port needs to work with the city and the county and their agencies to come up with a good solution for this, and I will work hard to do that.
Thank you. The mission of the port includes meeting the essential transportation needs of the region. What role do you think the port has in mitigating impacts of the increasing rail traffic? And we'll start with you, Candidate Wenger.
Increasing rail traffic? Mm-hmm. Okay.
In mitigating impacts of increasing rail traffic.
Well, I think this is a real serious concern of mine, and because not only do we have very hazardous materials going through our community on those trains, essentially bomb trains with the Bakken crude that's very explosive. And so as much as possible, I would want to reroute those trains and actually away from the most populated areas. But in the meantime, there's a number of things for safety, health, and welfare can be done for the public, improving the crossing areas and actually decreasing making them more noise reduction areas. But also, if there's still going to be some trains coming through the city, and they need to be blocked off with industrial buildings that will protect the new downtown area from any potential dangers from derailments.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, please.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the rail needs to be moved back off the waterfront, but I'm also a big fan of transportation. The port's sole focus is economic development. Transportation is a key to that. When we start looking at doing jobs on the waterfront, we're going to need ways, more than just waterfront ways, to move commodities, to move things around. If we're going to bring things in, the rail is a great way to do it. I'm a big fan of taking the railroad spurs and making quiet zones in areas where quiet zones need to be made. That's an investment we should be making over the long term. But secondly, we shouldn't be an enemy to rail, because rail is what moves our commodities. I mean, hell, we got rid of that incinerator out on Slater Road. We even move our garbage down by the rail at this point. The rail is moving everything in our society today much cheaper than a lot of the mechanisms that we have. We need to find a way to work with the rail companies, move it back off the waterfront, and find ways to bring a rail spur in so we can actually move commodities.
Thank you. The next question. Is there a legal way to promote contracting with local businesses for port projects? If so, how do you think our port could do this? Candidate Bell, please.
Yeah, I'm a private sector guy, so there's a couple of things. This is going to feed right into the heart of what I believe in for economic development. There are things that we do on the port that we shouldn't probably be doing. When I look at office buildings that we own, I'm not so sure we should own those buildings. There's private sector companies that can do that very well. Thank you very much. We should be looking at ways that we can increase jobs. So if we've got an office building that's completely built out, all we're doing is creating revenue from those rents. If that building gets sold and that money can be reallocated to a place that has zero potential, and we can bring that potential from 0 to 100, that's the role of the port. So if we have that 12 Bellwether building, for example, that is under the ownership of the port, and it's just creating revenue, it's not creating jobs, it's creating revenue. What can happen with that is that building can be sold, and let's take it to a place where we can actually do some waterfront work. For example, let's go take a look at sanitary services. Sorry, Paul. Buy that company, move it off the waterfront, and create some working space there. That creates capital.
Thank you. Candidate Wanger, please.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that the port is a public entity. And as such, it's indebted to the taxpayers. We all pay into it. But having said that, I believe the port should operate very businesslike, and transparency is really important. So I think partnerships with private development is actually central to getting the economic development done on the waterfront and actually around the entire county. Places like ITAC, when the port sold the land to ITAC, and they built their fabulous facility down there, I think that was actually a really good move, because it's away from the waterfront. It's like by the train tracks, excuse me. So it makes a bit of a noise barrier for them. On the waterfront side, I think we should be leasing most of that property, because that actually keeps us some control over the long term, actually generates more revenue for the city, and you only have one waterfront.
Thank you. What would you, as a port commissioner, propose to sustain and enhance the economic contribution of our marine and farming industries to the overall county economy? Candidate Wanger, we'll start with you on this one.
I think our marine trades are one of the most important aspects of the port operation on the waterfront. There are 6,000 really good living wage jobs associated with that. And in boat building, in commercial fishing, and in all the electronics and other related issues that connect that economy. So we want to do everything we can to keep that that part of the economic sector strong. All-American Marine is a great outfit. I'm really happy that we've got them here. And along with those, there's many other opportunities for, I think, related marine trades along our waterfront that can be brought in over time. I guess that's it.
You have 15 seconds. Okay. Candidate Bell? Oh, nope, we're done with that one.
No?
Nope, we're not. I was on it to begin with. Candidate Bell, got to trust myself.
Yeah, so the best thing we can possibly do is, I've got a keen understanding that where jobs come from. They come from existing companies. Most of the jobs that we have in this community are already here. Most of job growth comes from companies and businesses that are already here. The best thing we can possibly do is go to them and say, what can we do to help you? If I'm looking at fishermen, I'm not looking at saying, how am I going to help you with your boat? I'm going to tell you, how can I sell your product for more? How can I bring more of you to the table? If I've got a diesel motor company that's repairing engines on boats, our job is to try to enhance those opportunities on the waterfront. The best example of that is All-American Marine, which, by the way, is one of my biggest supporters. And it's because the understanding that if you just put a little bit of money, which we did in the All-American Marine plant site, their revenues went from $10 million up to over $32 million with just a simple investment. They went from 40 employees to over 85 employees with just a simple investment because they already exist. If we can help the companies that are already here flourish and thrive, we've done our job.
Thank you. And now we'll hear our last question prior to the closing statements. That is, if elected, what would you hope to accomplish by the end of your 4-year term? We'll start with you, Candidate Bell.
Huh. The legacy would be that we actually started something, right? How many port commissions have we been through where nothing has gotten started? The legacy would be that we started something, and we started something wonderful, that we finished the waterfront development, that we did something in Blaine that added to the economic development capacity in the city of Blaine, that we helped the farmer in the community move their materials out of the county, that our reputation would be that we worked not only just for the waterfront, but we also worked for the entire county, that we brought more business into the center of the city of Bellingham, that we brought more business into the Blaine city centers, that we went out to Linden and we helped the farmers create more opportunities for themselves. We are an economic development group. We should be singly focused on that. Let all the other distractions aside and let that be our legacy.
Thank you. Candidate Wenger?
I think this is such a critical point in our culture and our development of this city that in 4 years, I want to be able to say that we nailed down the plan and implemented it so that we have a thriving downtown waterfront. You know, the parties that have been at this for a long, long time, and I've been in that mix a long time also, it's very important to have someone who can actually bring those parties together at the table and get down to the bottom line and get the decisions made. It's gone on way too long. We're at the point right now that we can bring these businesses in, get the public access back to our waterfront, get the parks in, get the infrastructure in, bring in the high-speed fiber optics, and get a 21st century economy going down there, as well as maintaining what we have with our marine trades group. So I want to see this thing finally get kick-started, and that's what I'll get done in the first 4 years.
Thank you very much. Please join me in, oh, no. Gosh, this one has been just flub, flub, flub. Sorry about that. We still have your closing statements to go. And we're going to start first with you, Candidate Wenger. Your closing statement, you have 1 minute.
Well, as you see, there's a lot at stake in this year's election. It's basically a complete different direction of the past. For the port, I think the port is a vital economic engine for the entire county, and I'd like to see, you know, all the areas like Blaine, Sumas, out in East County get help from the port's economic driver. We've got a regional airport, which is great and probably overbuilt to start with, but we can actually use that as an engine. But we need to get the jobs down on the waterfront and get this plan nailed down. All the parties agreed to where we're going with this, because once we've done that, then we can start moving forward quickly. So I would like to do that. I'd like to be the person to work with the other commissioners to finally get us kickstart this economy in this waterfront.
Thank you. Candidate Bell, your closing statement, please.
Yeah, I think saw something today that, first of all, it disturbs me a little bit. And that was, he's never been on the attack before. And clearly there's some reason. And it's because we have divided ourselves along party lines. We have reds and blues. And we're too good a people for that. When we divide ourselves among reds and blues, we don't talk. You immediately saw the mood change when the attacks hit. We've separated ourselves, and I've separated myself from political parties for a reason. I'm running for the Port of Bellingham. I live here. I'm raising my kids here. I could care less what Donald Trump tweets. I could care less what the red and the blue think, because that's not pertinent to what I want to do here. I want to be removed from that. I don't want the tone to change in the room because I'm a different party than Roxanne Murphy or Pinky Vargas or Seth. I want the tone to be one where I have more in common with you than I have separate from you, and I want to start the dialogue with that. And I just as soon not do the attacks, and I'm sorry you went down that road. But I have not and refuse to go down that road in the future.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Ken Bell and Barry Wanger for participating today. I would like to take a brief moment while our city council members that are going to be coming up and taking their seat, Roxanne Murphy and Eric Bolstering, please come on down to the podium. Shh. I'd like to take a quick moment and remind candidates that using your closing statement for a positive commentary about yourself goes a long way towards civil discussion. Next, we're turning to the race for the at-large position on the Bellingham City Council. And the candidates are coming down to take their seats. Thank you. The Bellingham City Council is composed of 7 members who are elected by all of the voters of Bellingham. There are 4 members on the ballot in November. The League invited each candidate who had a challenger for the race to participate in this forum. We regret that the 6th Ward candidate, Quenby Peterson, declined to participate, and so we have removed that race from our agenda today. Michael Lilliquist is running against candidate Peterson, and he is in the audience today. Michael, you want to raise your hand? Thank you for being here. The candidates for Ward 2 and Ward 4 are both running unopposed. Jean Knudsen is running in Ward 2, and Pinky Vargas is running in Ward 4. I think I saw Pinky. Oh, yeah, Pinky's here. And is Jean Knudsen here too? Apparently not. Well, thank you for coming. We are pleased that both candidates for the at-large position are here today. Please join me in welcoming Roxanne Murphy and Eric Bolstering. The City Council is the legislative body for the city. The council adopts local laws, ordinances, to secure the safety and promote the well-being of the city residents, the city's physical environment and amenities, and the city economy. The council is responsible for approving financial expenditures and adopting the city budget, as well as establishing policies and regulations in order to guide the city's future. The at-large council member is elected for a 2-year term, and the annual salary is $25,572. The rules for this race are the same as those that we followed for the port commissioners, and I encourage members of the audience to submit your questions. We will be starting with the candidates' 1-minute opening statements. Since candidate Bolstering won the dice toss and chose to close last, we're going to begin with candidate Murphy. Your 1-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you so much. I come to you today asking you to please support the candidate in this race that has by far the most experience, the candidate that earned 66% of the vote in the primary election, the candidate that has raised the most campaign money, and also the candidate that has earned the most endorsements. I'm also seeking your support as one of the women who regularly sits up here and has stuck her neck out for so many of Bellingham's values for the last 4 years. My name is Roxanne Murphy. I'm an 8th generation member of the Nooksack Indian tribe, and it has been one of the greatest honors of my life to serve as your Bellingham City Council member at large. I'm asking you to please rocks the vote by November 7th so that this unique and qualified leadership can continue. Haishka Siyam.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom, your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Eric Bostrom, and I'm running for Bellingham City Council at large. My great-grandfather came from Sweden, and I'm the 4th generation of my family to live and work in the city of Bellingham. Homelessness and housing costs have steadily increased since 2012-2013. Everyone knows it. Everyone talks about it, but nothing happens. I want to do something about it. 5 months ago, I entered the race for City Council. From day one, I have been assaulted on a daily basis for having a Christian faith and acting like it. Is there now a religious test for running for office in Bellingham? Do you have to be a certain religion, or can you have a religious faith at all to hold office in Bellingham? I'm the most written about, most talked about candidate locally in any race, whether it's songs, websites, Facebook pages, newspaper articles, tweets, or just a myriad of other things. Thank you.
Thank you. For our questions, you're going to have a 1-minute response time. If you wish to challenge your opponent's response, show me your challenge card. Each candidate may make 2 challenges. As you saw before, it can be a little challenging, so bear with us. The first question is, what should the council's strategy be when it comes to bolstering future economic development and vitality across Bellingham? Please include job creation in your response. And we will start with you, Candidate Bostrom.
Yes, it's well known that in the city of Bellingham, the average wage is about $42,000 now. The average house is $400,000. Now, I happen to have been a person in school who took math, so I realize that that doesn't equate very well. We need jobs, and one of the things that we could do is get much more aggressive on the waterfront, for instance. I applaud ITEC and that outfit that makes the aluminum boats and so on. But we could do a lot more. See, I noticed that when Amazon was trying to pick a sister city, these cities went all out just to be included. Well, I don't see Bellingham getting that excited like that. I'm not saying we could have got Amazon, but I'm not saying we couldn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Murphy?
Yeah, this is an exciting topic for me as I've previously worked for municipal economic development, and it's a keen interest of mine and something I've been fighting to work on for the last 4 years. I'm really interested in how our zoning affects our business attraction. I'm really interested in how we can work better with our development community to get the kind of buildings that we need to get more Class A office space, better jobs in our community, incentives that we can set to work with the business community so we can get those jobs that we need to improve the living wages in our community and especially to get our union workers back to work. This is what I'm committed to doing and what I'm going to continue to support.
Thank you. How would you describe the principles that guide you in making personal decisions? And how would those principles be reflected in your role on the City Council? And we'll start with you, Candidate Murphy.
Could you state the beginning of the question again?
Sure. How would you describe the principles that guide you in making personal decisions? And how would those principles be reflected in your role on the City Council?
My personal principles are that my belief system are my tribal ancestors, and I have a lot of work in this life to do right by all of those ancestors. Excuse me, that's what keeps me on a very positive path, and it really helps me look at ways that we can support all different kinds of people. People that I disagree with, people that I agree with, and everybody that we need to work with, all the constituents throughout the city. Because as tribal members, we often work for the benefit of all, and that's what I want to continue to do as your at-large council member.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom, please.
It's no secret that I'm a Christian. I've been running and talking for 5 months on the areas of homelessness and housing costs only. That's all I've been talking about for 5 months. Everybody else, including my opponent's website and all kinds of other people, are talking about my religion. So let me tell you about it. I believe the Bible is true. I believe every human being is equal in the sight of God, and I believe those values would be reflected in my. When I've had secular jobs, I was not there to be a minister. I was there to do the job, to make money for the company or to fulfill the role of that particular service. So when the city of Bellingham has things to do, I'm your man, and I will treat everybody equally as I have during my whole career. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm combining two questions. Bear with me on this. The search continues for a site for a city-subsidized homeless shelter in partnership with the Lighthouse Mission. We're curious if you agree with this approach to homelessness. But there's also the comment that the homeless situation is getting worse. How will you make it better? Do you have a plan? And we will start with you, candidate Bolstering.
Yes, I do have a plan. My plan is modeled after two models that are working. One is the state of Utah, which is the only state that's been successful in alleviating the homeless problem, and they do it with the concept called Homes First. I've also visited the Lummi Nation Stepping Stone Project, which is kind of a newer one. They don't have a track record yet, but I like their spirit. They have a program where you put people, and they have houses about 16 people can fit in. They have a waiting list. You have to be clean and sober. You have to be looking for work or working or going to school, and you're not staying for any more than 6 months. It kind of reminds me of growing up, the way it was in my house. That was kind of the same rules from my wonderful dad. And I think we need to get back to those kind of values. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Murphy, please.
I'm completely committed to improving our homeless services and also our mental health services in this community. This is a dire need. As we do need to attract economic development and get those jobs, we also need to help out our people in need. So I am so glad that our city council is now willing to work with the Whatcom County Council, any other organizations that are really going to help us solve a lot of these issues and really address them in meaningful and thoughtful ways. Because another key contributor to our housing and our homeless issue is just we have a justice system that doesn't work well with our human beings. And I love that we're a city council that is really bringing forward great ideas on how to improve a justice and more caring justice system so we can provide better support for all people.
Thank you. And we have a challenge. You have 45 seconds to make your challenge statement, and then candidate Murphy will have 45 seconds, not minutes, 45 seconds to respond.
Yes, my esteemed city council at large member continually is making vague statements about things with no specifics. And I feel that this is what really is characterizing her career. She's changed Columbus Day to Coast Salish Day, but other than that, I don't know what else she's done, and she talks in vagaries, vague terms, and I think we need specific answers to specific problems, and people want change in Bellingham. Thank you.
Candidate Murphy.
I was extremely disappointed when the Port Commission turned down the opportunity to have services for homeless people within those properties. I understand why they did, but that shows the problem that we have in finding a location for these services. Let me be quite specific. I want us to partner with anybody who is willing to offer these services. These are dedicated services that we have to have in our community because the care for our homeless people also shows how we care for all of our people. And this is the proper care that we have to improve, and that is what I'm specifically dedicated to.
Thank you. Next question. What steps do you believe the city can or should take to create or encourage more affordable housing, including for the middle class? And we'll start with you, candidate Murphy.
Yeah, this has been a longstanding issue in our city, most definitely. I personally think there are things we can do to improve our zoning and definitely ways that we need to set incentives so that people will develop the affordable housing that we desperately need. And also, it's a matter of understanding that we need all types of housing in our community. We need small homes, we need large homes, we need mid-size homes, because the single-family homes are still desirable in our community, so we're really going to have to look at annexations and other forms of ways we can do infill and development in this community so we can attract all of those housing to really support every sector of our community.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom?
Yes, according to the Growth Management Act, we're out of compliance as a city with affordable housing. We're lagging way behind. There's several things that can be done. First of all, we can expand the urban growth areas, have water and sewer out there so we can encourage some developers to build some more homes. Oh, growth. Oh, you're for growth. Yeah, I'm for growth. I think the no growth attitude in Bellingham and Whatcom County is the reason why the housing prices are going way up and people can't afford them. So, and we also start looking more, I would say more vigorously with ADUs, mother-in-law units and stuff in areas where it doesn't irritate the neighbors. I don't think they should be able to build up tall and then take somebody else's view away, but I think we can have some infill too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What proposals do you have to support and include Bellingham Technical College and Western Washington University students in the life and community of Bellingham? And we'll start with you, Candidate Bostrom.
Could you restate?
Yes, I certainly
didn't get
can.
that question. Yeah.
What proposals do you have to support and include Bellingham Technical College and Western Washington University students in the life and community of Bellingham?
Well, they already do have a certain life of the community of Bellingham because every time the fall comes, they change the whole nature of the downtown. I'm a longtime supporter of Western Washington University, having been one of my undergraduate degrees from Western, and I continually go to Western for various reasons. A lot of students know me there, and I also have a technical college student friends. But I think we could bring them. I think we need to have more Western students and technical college students in these city council meetings, getting involved. We should maybe have some kind of a mentorship program or something to entice them to become part of the process, because we have too many. I love old people, but most city council meetings are old people. I love old people, but we need younger people. We need more younger people because, the future is younger people, right? So, by the way, you are as young as you think. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Murphy, please.
I really appreciate that Bellingham is a tried and true college town, and I love the experiences that our city has in working with our higher education institutions. Some of the ways that we do this is we have a mayor's neighborhood advisory group, and we have a student from Western that serves on that. There are ways that we have students that are involved in our committees, our boards, and our commission work. And there's work that we do with the college to show that we work hand in hand with our town and gown movements and initiatives to help students understand how to live more responsibly in our neighborhoods and to help our neighbors be more respectful of our college students. But this is something that's an ongoing relationship that I love to support, because this town wouldn't be much without our higher education institutions as workforces and also with students that are so helpful in our community.
Thank you. In February, the City Council declined to name Bellingham a sanctuary city, but did reaffirm the policy that Bellingham police will not enforce federal immigration law. What is your view of this action, and why do you hold it? Candidate Murphy.
I'm proud that our city has 4 pages of protections for our immigrant community, and I actually keep that on my personal cell phone in case anybody has questions about what we do to protect our immigrant community via police work. I'm proud of the way that we carry that work out. It's something that I'm going to stand in solidarity with, especially as I proposed a resolution that would support our DACA community members, because we have to stand by our immigrant community as well as the rest of our citizens to help everybody have a safe way and to feel like that they can report crimes and not face horrible sanctions or absolute disrespect for humanity.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom.
I was present at the meeting where they discussed that and did some ruling on it, and the room here was filled with people who were, I would say a large number of them, were not legally in the United States. I held up a sign. I stood right over here and gave a speech, and it said illegal equals not legal equals not good. I sat down over right where Mr. Lilquist is sitting right now, and while I was sitting there listening to the other comments, I was attacked by somebody My sign was ripped out of my hand. My cell phone was knocked out of my hand. And this is, according to definition on the street, is called assault. Nothing happened. Nobody did anything. There were no consequences at all. And here I'm in my own country. I'm a legal citizen, but the person who was illegally here had more rights than me. I do not favor sanctuary cities, but I love all people. But I think we need to start getting this straight in our country and participate with the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you. How would you ensure that all people of Bellingham feel safe and supported in their city, including immigrants, undocumented people, and the LBGT community? We're going to start with you, Candidate Bolstering.
Did you redo that? I was still thinking about my last answer.
Absolutely. It kind of ties in a little bit, I think.
Yeah, okay.
How would you ensure that all people of Bellingham feel safe and supported in their city, including immigrants, undocumented people, and the LGBT community?
Well, I have a history of doing street preaching that impacts some of those areas. I'm concerned about the safety of Christians because I've been assaulted more times than probably anybody in this room just by doing things. That's why I know most of the policemen. I believe in equal rights for everybody, but that includes me, and I have a right to my view, and so everybody has a right to their lifestyle. I love America. I love freedom of speech. I love freedom for everybody. Whatever your sexual preference is, whatever your deal is, I'm all for you. And I love you. I love everybody. I hate no one. And I'm all for equality. But that includes me, too. So thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Murphy. Your response, please.
I'm proud to live in a city that works so hard to protect our people of color, our LGBTQ community, and this is work that I join in. I love being in our Pride Parade. I love passing resolutions as a city council member to ask people not to sign on to stupid initiatives that people are trying to pass in Washington State that would ban transgender people from using our bathrooms. I'm happy to continue all of this work because something's going on in our society where we are really starting to understand what we need to do to affect and improve the majority of our community members. This is work I want to continue to do in Bellingham so that everybody feels like they're a part of our community, their voice is equal, they have equal rights and opportunities, and things that we can do to support it all.
And I see a challenge flag. Candidate Bolstering, 45 seconds.
Off of my opponent's Facebook page, you read this. The opponent, which of course is me, was doorbelling and told a 13-year-old daughter that she should leave home because her mother was a lesbian and they were going to burn in hell. The 13-year-old told the opponent that he was suggesting was illegal and wasn't really displaying the finer points of Christianity. We are so proud of the way this youth responded and stand in solidarity with this family. The only problem with this statement is 100% a bold-faced lie. I never talk to young people like that. I don't engage people knocking on doors that are underage other than give this to your parents, meaning the flyer. And this is 100% a lie. I challenge you to take it down. It's called libel.
Candidate Murphy, you have 45 seconds.
I just encourage people to look at the Bellingham Herald letters to the editor that have been written about my opponent's experiences when he's been doorbelling, and the word that he has used is bigot in communicating with community members. We really need elected leaders that are going to work effectively with our community members of all shapes and sizes and types.
Thank you. The next question. Do you believe the process for developing the waterfront is on the right track? Are there changes or actions you would support as the plans move forward? And we'll start with you, Candidate Murphy.
I think we can all agree the plans for the waterfront have taken too long. That's why we're so excited to see actual changes happening in the waterfront. The city will do our part with creating streets and roads and infrastructure and parks. And then I'm so excited to see what's going to happen as we redevelop so many of these properties. I really hope it's going to be a jewel in our community that will show not only our community values, but also the things that we need to get done in this community for jobs and places to live and places to recreate. So I'll be supporting that to the best of my ability and working with the port and other partners because this is an exciting time in our city.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom, please.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mr. Bell on the length of dragging on of this thing. I think one of the number one things that I would like to see at the waterfront is not necessarily luxury condominiums, but how about luxury affordable homes? How about something people can afford? How about helping the people that can't find a place to live right now because they have a job, but they can't afford the rent? By the way, I talked to a guy on the phone yesterday. He had to raise his rent $300 a month. And by the way, he doesn't get any of that. It all goes to, I don't know what it goes to. But we need affordable housing and homes. And I think we're out of compliance with the planning, and we need to have some. Why not use that down there? And by the way, the bigot thing is another lie. The lady in the article doesn't tell the real story about how she really proved herself to be just that. And I'm the one being called a bigot for 5 months from people that support her. So it's a complete fake, and it's a hit job on me and my religion. Thank you.
The next question. How would you describe the relationship between the city and local business owners and developers? Candidate Bostrom, we'll start with you.
Again, please.
How would you describe the relationship between the city and local business owners and developers? Candidate Bostrom.
I think the relationship now is I don't see the city being at all sensitive to the people, at least the businesses downtown. You've got homeless people sleeping in the doorways. The police, I know from personal experience of talking to them, have been told to stand down, let them stay there, let them sleep there, let them urinate there, let them defecate there, and all the rest of it. We need a change in the city. It's drastic. We need to change. Now, who is the other partner in that?
City, local business owners, and developers.
Developers are kind of getting left out in the cold here. They're basically being told you can't develop, or if you do, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and so they're saying, well, we can't afford to do that. So we need, the government needs to work with those two people a lot better than they do, and we need change in the city. One more, I want to emphasize the word change. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Murphy, please.
One of the things I loved about my previous background work was working for the Weyerhaeuser Company in the city of Tacoma. And within the city of Tacoma, I had such a great time working with our small business community. With Bellingham being 65% small businesses, there's a lot of work that we have to do to improve those relationships, to let those businesses know how much we care, because that's a value in our community of supporting those small businesses. And we also have a long road ahead of us in improving our relationships with developers, because we really need their support to get the kind of development that we need in this community. If we continue to kick development around to other sections of our county, we're going to lose out, and I want us to remain as the county seat. And one way we can do that is improving our relationships with our business owners and the development community.
Thank you. Next question. How would you handle opposing points of view when they differ from yours? How will you foster inclusion and acceptance of a diversity of views in our community? And we'll start with you, Candidate Murphy.
I've been doing this for 4 years now as a sanctioned council member. I really try to listen to people, try to understand where they're coming from, and I personally believe that even the person that I disagree with the most, I have something definitely to learn from everything that they're saying, the way that they're acting, or what they're trying to convey to me. So I'll continue that work to try to work well with people, to be understanding, and to respect differences.
Thank you. Candidate Bostrom?
I love this question. I feel like it was designed for me. I've been working with my whole life I've been dealing with people who have another view. I mean, I'm 100% the best candidate to ever work with people who have a different view, because most people have a different view than me, and I'm doing fine. And I have a lot of friends on the left, friends on the right, friends that are homosexual, friends that are lesbian. I have lots of friends that have a different view. I'm good at different views. Hey, I'm here. I attend city council meetings. I'm good at different views. So I think Bellingham needs me because I have views that represent a lot of people who are not presently represented in the city of Bellingham. That's a true story. That is a true story. There are lots of people who have tuned this body out. The 7 people who sit here with the group think, they've tuned you out because their view is not represented. I want to represent you. I would make the city council meetings more exciting than they are now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question. What is your position on the November ballot issue that asks for a sales tax increase to build a new jail, and what are the reasons for your opinion? Please be specific about funding for alternatives to incarceration included in the proposal. And we will start with you, candidate Bolstering.
I think they should have approved the jail before, because the situation's getting worse as far as the cost of it. I very reluctantly am for it for the standpoint I hate that tax. I don't like taxes. I think we should lower taxes, not raise taxes. But we need a jail because the present jail is unsafe, and the city's going to get sued if we don't change it. And so I support the jail. I don't support these things where you're just going to turn people loose and give them free stuff, and then they're going to be good to you, because it never has been done in history like that. It's never worked. And so we do have to have a jail, and we do have to have a safe jail. So I'm for a safe jail. But I really wish we would have done it earlier. I wish we could be smarter like Skagit County. Why are we not as smart as Skagit County? Well, I think we need new leadership that's smarter, as smart as Skagit County, so we could get these things done earlier instead of just being lost in the
Thank you.
in the bell.
Candidate Murphy, please.
This is quite a complicated issue, as many of you are understanding as you're reviewing your choices in it. I voted in favor of sending the jail facility use plan to the voters, so I will say that I supported it then, and I will say that I voted in favor of the jail last night on my ballot. It's so hard to get through all of this because I know so many of you really don't like incarceration and really don't like the way people are treated. I'm really worried about how people are treated in our existing facility, the antiquated building that we can't just redevelop and have it last. So I really want to make sure that the workers are safe, that the people in the jail are safe, and that they're getting better services for mental health and for also good care in the facility. And the voters will have their say. That's really what I wanted out of that in sending it forward.
Okay, and the next question ties into that. Since 2016, electronic monitoring of pretrial defendants has saved the city of Bellingham $735,000 over the cost of confining them in the Whatcom County Jail. Do you support these types of cost-effective alternatives to incarceration, and are there other alternatives that the city should explore? Candidate Murphy, we'll start with you.
I'm really excited that we're at a point in time where all party lines are starting to understand if you do these alternatives to incarceration, it's not only good for the people, it saves your government money. Friendship Diversion Services is the organization that the city uses for these electronic home monitoring devices. This helps people keep their jobs. It helps keep them in school. It allows them to take care of their families and their needs while they're working on their issue with the court system. I highly support this, and I hope more jurisdictions will use it so they can experience the cost savings, but also really help people in those unique ways.
Thank you. Candidate Bolstering?
Yeah, in the previous question about the jail, I was referring to this idea of abandoning all jails. I'm against that idea. However, I'm very much in favor of these alternatives, and I really like the idea of saving money. It's kind of a new idea. It's kind of an idea we don't see often in government, but I like the idea of saving money, and I like alternatives. And I think the faith-based community, if they could get their act together, and they could have groups of people that monitor a certain person in a peer group that could be another kind of alternative. I think churches need to get active and become what they say they are. And I think a lot of changes would come to our community, including the homeless problem, which I favor the Lummi model, but with nonprofits, individuals, and churches. They don't have to be a certain, or they could be other religions, but I think the faith community can solve a lot of problems in our community, which is why the city goes to the Lighthouse Mission for help.
Thank you. And we're now going to hear the last question prior to the closing statements. If elected to this position, how would you measure your success at the end of your 2-year term? You will have a 1-minute response time, and we'll start with you, candidate Bolstering.
Well, if I was still alive, I would feel successful. No, I would feel successful is if we saw a reasonable change in the homeless problem, which is my #1 issue that I'm trying to work on, and I have the experience and the ideas and the fortitude to do that. I would also want to know that we have more affordable housing than we presently do, that people could afford to rent here and buy here, and so that would include some jobs that we presently don't have. And then finally, I'd want to know that I did something to change the present climate of non-equality and discrimination against people of faith, people who are conservative, people like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Murphy, your response?
Well, the way I measure success is how well I think we're tracking against our goals. There's always work that we can do with that. There's also something that I believe in, and actually working with our community and talking to community members and stakeholders to see if I'm doing what they think is necessary. That's an ongoing thing, but that's also the gateway to determine if I'll continue running for public office. Enough people thought that I was doing a fair enough job as a council member, which is what got me here today. And those are some of the measurements that I'll use in going forward to figure out what we need to do as a city, and then also what my track record should consist of.
Thank you. So candidates, you now have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. And candidate Murphy, we're going to start with you.
Well, I just want to thank the League of Women Voters. I thank you all so much for being here. And I also really want to thank everybody who supported me over the last 4 years, and definitely the people who have gotten me to this point. You know, we're at a really interesting time in the city of Bellingham, and we need people to be involved to get us through a lot of these challenging topics and issues. We need your voice and we need your support. So I'm asking you to please vote for me in this re-election race, because we need the kind of leadership that's going to be there side by side with our community in good times and in bad. So for more information, you can visit rocksthevote.com, and please be sure to vote by November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Bolstering.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having the forum, and thank you for being so kind to me. This day, this moment marks the end of a long, well, not the end, but we're close to the end of the campaign, the end of a long journey for me when I got involved in politics by mistake, not by mistake, but without thinking about it. I was in a city council meeting where they're basically giving the finger to Israel and supporting these measures against the state of Israel. And I stood right there where she is, and I said, I'm going to become a conservative Christian activist. And I didn't even know what I was saying, and here I end up doing this. Well, I'm not running as a Christian. I'm not running as a conservative. I'm running as a nonpartisan. I live in 352 square feet. I drive a Prius. I have many ideas that are very compatible with people that are nonpartisan, and even those that are Democrat, which is why many Democrats are voting for me, because they like my ideas that are nonpartisan ideas. This is not a partisan race, and thank you so much for voting for me.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking Roxanne Murphy and Eric Bolstering for participating today. And for running for public office. I would like to express our gratitude to the audience for your helpful participation this morning.